I know, beautiful Martine, what you shared is about the places that hold us together. And we all have beautiful places that we can go to. Maybe it's the beach where memories come up and just, they feel so good, or it can be in someone's home, beautiful, or the different places that can just awaken that remembrance in you of the goodness of life. And people, I know there's people in my life too that are the glue when I fall apart. People that help put me together. And remember, there's always something greater. Today, what I want to talk about, that inward feeling that can hold us together at any time, anywhere, if we're alone or with someone else or with a large group of people. I don't know about any of you, but right now I feel the world is a bit churned up. There's fires all over the globe, and there's earthquakes, and there's all the things that are going on that are just keeping things churned up, and people are churned up. And I know there's something greater in every single one of us that can help lift up this agitation, this separation, the differences in life that can bring us back together. And remember, that sparrow, that God essence and energy is always with us. It's never not there. Now, we are the sum of all the choices we've made. And I don't know about you, but I've made some kind of creepy choices sometimes. Anybody else once in a while? But that's okay, because we're here to learn from all our experiences. Life isn't just about the goodness. Goodness is ever present all the time, but that's not what it's all about. Sometimes it takes the hard stuff, the mistakes, the difficult times, to shake us awake, to break us open, that we can find something more. So we're a sum of all our choices, but what I truly believe, and I know for myself, is when we choose compassion, we can not only save ourselves, but we can save humanity. Beautiful John O'Donohue, the poet, the theologian, the philosopher, said the ability to care is the hallmark of humans, the touchstone of morality, the ground of holiness. Without the warmth, well, it feels pretty cool in here right now, but without the warmth of care, the world would be a graveyard. But in the kindness of care, the divine becomes alive in us. No matter what we're doing, no matter where we are, there's that aliveness, that awakening that happens to us. Now, when Gretchen was so beautifully singing that song and talking about her eye on the sparrow, it reminds me that of the place of compassion is right here in us. It's that soft spot in us that cannot be touched or harmed by any wounds or any problems or any difficulties. It stays pure. It stays connected to spirit. And if we look at the sparrow, the God essence, that energy, and hold it, put our hand up to God and our hand down to humanity, we are that bridge that brings spirit into our life and connects us with other people. And that's the gift we have, and that's what compassion does for us. And that's a beautiful thing. John O'Donohue says, there's a place in you that has never been wounded, and he calls it that sacred space within. The Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron, calls it the soft spot. You know, if we're going to think about compassion, we have to think about what keeps us from being compassionate, or we'd be loving and kind all the time. And I don't know about you, but that's a pretty big task. It doesn't work so well. We have to also own the problems, the difficulties, the hardships we have, the fears we have, and we're often very afraid of the things we don't know. But Pema Chodron has a book called The Places That Scare You. And here's what she says. She says, we let the circumstances of life harden our hearts, and we become resentful and angry. And I think the problem is because we haven't been given the tools to heal these things. I think there's a lot of people in the world right now that are really addicted to this resentment and anger, and it keeps them stirred up and alive. But we have another way to do that. She said the greatest harm comes from our inability to face life directly, to look deeply to not look deeply, instead stuff the pains and sorrows. I had a call this week. I called James von Prague. James and I have a special relationship. When we had our angel store, we'd had it for several years, and he called. I answered the phone one day, and he said, "Hi, this is James von Prague. Is this Sandy Moore?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I have to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, who is this?" And he said, "James von Prague. Your daughter is bugging me so much, I have to give you a reading." Now, he was right on the cusp of doing The Ghost Whisperer and on his books getting on the #1 bestseller list and all this. So he had to go around and do all these tours and do all this work. But that man did not forget. He didn't come give us a reading right away, but he came to our home. I don't know if it was a year or a year and a half later, and gave us his whole heart. He is a man of integrity and goodness. And I just called him on last week, and he was in a tough place himself. And in all the years I've known him, and he's come here and he's given workshops for us and donated the money to us and done all sorts of wonderful things, he was in a tough place. And I was so glad I called. And then I talked to him later because I had to get off the phone, but listened to him, then called back later. I said, "Well," and he listened to whatever's going on for me. And then I said, "So what's going on with your work, James?" And he said, "I am so frustrated right now. People want to come to me for answers, to tell them what's going on, but they're not willing to do the spiritual work. They're not willing to get in there and heal themselves. They're doing this spiritual bypass. They're using the spiritual, oh, God is good all the time, life is love, all this, and they're not willing to do their work. So they're stuffing it, and then it keeps the anger, it keeps the grief, it keeps the wounds ever growing and ever festering." And so I said, "Well, let's hold that space right now." He said, "Would you talk about that on Sunday?" And I said, "I will. I'll tell everybody to get over their spiritual bypasses." And anyway, he's down in San Diego, so I said we'd meet sometime soon and do that. But as our buddy Rumi says, our 13th century mystic, your task is not to seek for love, but seek for all the walls you've built against it. You know, when Joseph Campbell said, "The journey of our passion is compassion," and he said, when you get past the pair of opposites, you will be at compassion. Well, I read that and I thought, that sounds good, but we live in a world that is really defined by opposites, black and white, and yes and no, and right and wrong, male and female. But I don't think it's letting go of that. I think it's when we can hold it all, when we can bring it together and we don't make this good, that not, when we can hold it all and realize we are here for the experience of life. We are here to experience it and work through it. And Martine, what you said, I think is the most compassionate thing. When we can learn to be accepted just as we are. When we say all are welcome here, that's what we say, all are welcome here. That's the most compassionate thing we can say. It doesn't matter how many wounds or scars or whatever broken places you have. You are welcome here. We had Ariel Ford come and give a talk. She has a book called Wabi Sabi Love, and it was years ago. And she talks about Wabi Sabi Love. It's an Japanese art of accepting the imperfections as being a beautiful part of life. A beautiful part of life. It makes you special. And she was sharing the crumbs in the kitchen, how it bugs her husband's crumbs when he makes his toast in the morning. Oh my God, I'm living that. But anyway, we got a new air fryer, and I didn't know they could make so many crumbs from a piece of toast, but Kirk has one every single morning. Wipe them away, and I think, okay, Ariel, I'm going to love the crumbs. I just am. But there's another art in the Japanese art that does something even more than that brought some memories back for me. It's called kintsugi. It's the Japanese art of kintsugi. And they accept the cracks in the pottery, the cracks in the bowls or the dishes, but they do something more. They make a mixture with gold, and they put gold in the cracks. that highlights the cracks. And instead of trying to return something to the way it was, they make it even more beautiful with its imperfections. And it made me think of, after I'd been through all my practitioner training, and we lost our daughter, I remember going in and sitting at my minister, Dr. Jackie's desk, sobbing and saying, "I'm sorry, but I do not believe in the goodness of God anymore. In fact, I'm not sure I even believe in God anymore, because how could something like this happen?" And one thing compassion does is it listens and it understands. It doesn't try to change you. It holds a space for you to be you. And it lets you grieve, it lets you cry, it lets you be angry, it lets you do whatever it is. It holds that. And I can remember she said, "There is something more." That was all the little wisdom she gave me. So I went home, and it took a while. It took art therapy and water therapy and therapy and talking to friends and reading books. But I remembered deep in my soul, in that wounded place, I remembered that love is always there. Love is greater than time and space. It is forever. And I agreed the love that I had and still have for my daughter is way stronger than any sadness or grief I could ever hold. My gold was love. And I don't know for you what your gold is that keeps you glued together in those hard times. But I really, really would love for you to think about what is the God, the divine gift you have in those hard times that can really bring things together. They can bring things together so actually your life is more beautiful with the imperfections because of the growth of consciousness that have happened. Instead of spreading things apart, it's bringing things together. You know, Matthew Fox, in his book, Spirituality Named Compassion, talks about the way to get to compassion also, but he uses it more from a biblical sense, because being a Catholic priest that was defrocked or whatever you get, and becoming an Episcopal priest, he still has the same beliefs but a little different expressions. He takes some stories from the Bible. Now, this is a spirituality named compassion. He looks at the story of Jacob, who was a guy that had a lot of ups and downs in his life, believe me. And during one of those really down times, he went to bed and had a dream. And it was a dream of a ladder. And the ladder led up to God. And he saw angels coming up and down the ladder. And he was like, "Oh, wow, I can get to God by striving and working and getting there and getting there." And so that was his message in Jacob's ladder. And actually, what Matthew Fox says, the path there that he saw is a hierarchy and achievement and a path of separation. Because if you think about it, climbing a ladder, you're there to achieve. Your hands are busy striving for what you want. And believe me, we all need to strive for something. And there's times we need to work hard to get it. We don't want to be there all the time. And our society really holds so much awe in achievement and success, and that sometimes we can get lost in the ladder. But when you're climbing the ladder, you don't have a hand to reach out to other people. You don't have a hand to do that. So the story he uses to combat the separation from God, because God is out there, he uses a story of Sarah. Now, Sarah was a woman who was 90 years old, and her husband was 100. And they'd experienced infertility and never had the blessing of having children. And when she was 90 years old, God came to her and said, "Sarah, you're going to have a son." And you know what she did? She did not faint. She laughed. She's like, "Oh, has it taken this long for me to be blessed?" And she didn't push that away. She didn't say, "Well, what do I have to do?" She just was open and accepting, and sure enough, the next year, she had a son named Isaac. And all those, you can talk to Roger if you want to know more about the stories. Anyway, what Matthew Fox says about Sarah is a circle. It's a circle on equality, joy, creativity, and mutual care. It moves from competition to cooperation. Now, as I said, we have to climb the ladder sometimes. My wish is we just don't stay there. We make sure that we have circle time. Think in our community, don't we all love the circle at the end? I wonder whose hand I'm going to hold today. I wonder where I'm going to be. I mean, it's so exciting. And our caring circles, when we meet in small groups in homes, and our going deeper circles, and the circles we create all sorts of time in our social hall. Who am I going to sit with? It's an exciting time. A table or a circle represents a time, especially a table. I mean, tables are great places to, well, share stories, break bread. Oftentimes, differences melt and healing happens. You know, I think people that have climbed the ladder will miss the times they didn't spend at the table with their family, with their friends, with their coworkers, with the people they love or could have loved deeper and better. It's for sure time that we take table time. And in the table, you can always make space. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. And bring people together. Another thing is, you know, when Kirk was talking about Mr. Rogers when he talked, it was so fun to watch you from the other side of the camera. There's a story that came up to mind. Mr. Rogers, when he was little, and he was afraid, his mom would tell him, look for the helpers. Look for the helpers in life, because if we know anytime there's a tragedy, there's a problem, there's something bad going on, there is always people helping other people. I think of that young 16-year-old lifeguard in Santa Cruz and how it was, I think, his first, it might not have been his first day of work, but it was definitely his first rescue. When the waves are just pounding in and you think, how could anybody live through that? He swam out there to get that 10-year-old boy who he knew would not make it on his own. He swam out there and he struggled and he kept going under the waves. But what he said he knew in his heart, not only was he a helper, but he knew another lifeguard would come to help him. So when he was sharing about the joy he had in helping a young child, and he knew he had to do that, and he went and did it, he said, I also thank my partner that came to help me too. Life is about helping. It's about caring and sharing. If we can just readjust ourselves and get back to that place, that's what we're here for. I'm not sure who said this quote, but I love this it's just a little story. And it says, a man who stood before God, his heart breaking from the pain of injustice in his life and in the world, cried out, Dear God, look at all the suffering in the world and all the anguish and distress. This is your world. Why didn't you send someone to help? And God responded, I did send someone to help. I sent you. We're always looking out there for someone to help. But what Ernest Holmes says, I think, is the most important thing. He says, there is one person we must learn to get along with above all others. That person is ourself. We must learn to do the deep spiritual work to heal the negativity in us, the hurt in us, and the anger within us so we can live a greater possibility. You know, it's often said that hurt people, so we want to have more understanding and compassion. What I would like to add is, what do loved people do? Love people. What do we do when we come in this sanctuary? We love people. We've got it. We understand it. That's why we're here. So you're to think about what's the gold that keeps you together, the spiritual truth you know, and then get to know yourself, get to love yourself. Because once we love ourselves with all our crazy imperfections, difficulties, negativities, fears, all of it. And we start getting curious about what's going on inside of us, curious about that instead of stuffing it down so it festers and wounds. We can start healing the world. That's just the truth of what it is. So I would like in this moment, and Lois, I know you'd love to put up my reading. Oh, you already have it up. Thank you, thank you. This is what we have to realize first. So we have to reach that one arm up to spirit. So we're always having our consciousness on the greater good, the divine that is not only bigger than we are, but we bring it within us, to the God within us, and bring it out to others. So let's read this together. Because I am one with God, I am one with all people. Because I am one with life, I am one with everything that lives. I feel my union with people and with nature. I feel that I belong to life. I love life, and I enter into the joy of living. Will you do that with me? Yes, good. We can enter into that greater space, that greater good, no matter what's going on, knowing that place in us can grow in compassion and joy and love. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite everybody now, just energetically, just spread your wings, open your hearts, and fly. Let it go. Let it be. Find your goodness. Find your gold. Find your light, and know you are loved and you matter. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I love you all.